Robert Fritz's Structural Consulting channel. What this is. We present full structural consultations, ones that change people's lives. The idea behind this channel is for you to witness a completely different understanding of the human condition. Here are a few things to know. Structural consulting is not therapy. It is an exploration of the underlying structures in the client's life that produces predictable patterns of behavior. What is structure? Structure is a combination of elements that impact each other. In these sessions, the client's structures are a combination of what they want to create, how reality actually is, and the various concepts that they have. The concepts clients have are usually hidden from them, but these concepts have impact in influencing the client's life patterns. A change of structure will cause a change of the client's patterns. The principle. The underlying structure of anything will determine its behavior. The process involves seeing the actual patterns in the client's life, which leads to a better understanding of the client's underlying structure. The sessions last between 1 or 2 hours. We suggest that if you do decide to watch them, do so when you have time to see the entire process. If you want to see more structure consultations, subscribe to the channel. And here is the session.
Okay, so what would you like to talk about?
I'm in a transitional point in my life right now, so I think that this is a really wonderful time for the session because I'm wanting to look at some of the patterns that really haven't worked in the past. And what I'm seeing on a larger scale is that what my underlying piece that I'd like to focus on is my struggles with making money and how to make money in a way that doesn't eat up my whole life in terms of my time and energy, so that I have time to do other things, the things I feel like I really love doing have never really paid me well. And so I've needed to figure out how to make a living in a different way so that I would have the money to do the things I wanted to do. So at times I've worked for other people, other organizations, and that's worked for a while. And then different things have happened that it didn't work. And then I've swung the other direction and tried to get my own work going. And I feel like my strength is in creating things. Like I love to, create books or courses or whatever, but I'm not very strong at marketing. So I've put a lot of energy into trying to learn how to market, and I've had some success, but not enough that I could just do that.
Yeah.
So I kind of swing back and forth between working for another organization, working for a business, as long as I can, and as long as that works. And then I swing the other direction and try to work for myself. Even when I'm working for the other organization, I'm usually in the background trying to get some of my own work going.
Okay. Should we go over your pattern?
Yes, please.
Okay, so you need to think of a story that's different from the story that you gave me that I wrote the pattern on.
Okay.
And actually, I'm gonna go through it with you before I show it to you. So it's a story where you set out for something, you had it for a period of time. At the end of the story, you no longer had it, and it's not a good ending.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you had a desire. I need you to say yes.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Yes.
Or no.
Yes.
You considered possibilities.
Yes.
You applied.
Yes.
You chose one.
Yes.
You made agreements.
Yes.
You got involved.
Yes.
The agreements were not met.
Yes.
You tried to adjust and fix it.
Yes.
The game changed.
Yes.
You tried to make it work anyway.
Yes.
It worked for a bit.
Yes.
And then there was a sudden change.
Yes, I guess you could call it that. Yes.
And then you were out.
Yes.
Okay. We may have it. Can you think of another one? Let's just check it against another one.
Okay. Got it.
So you had a desire.
Yes.
You considered possibilities.
Yes.
You applied.
Yes.
You chose one.
Yes.
You made agreements.
Yes.
You got involved.
Yes.
The agreements were not met.
Yes.
You tried to adjust it or fix it.
Yes.
Then there was a game change, a change of game.
Yeah, and yes, and sometimes that game change comes first. Sometimes
But in this particular story, yeah.
The game change came before the trying to fix it.
Well, what I have after the game change is you try to make it work.
Yeah. Yes.
So agreements not met. You tried to adjust or fix it in relationship to the agreements.
Yes.
But then there's a change of game, and then you try to make it work. In this story, is that what happened?
I'm sorry, could you say the order again?
Yeah, okay. Do you want to start from the top again, or just so you have the,
let's start from the top.
desire,
Yes.
considered possibilities,
Yes.
you applied,
Yes.
you chose one,
Yes.
you say yes or no.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You made agreements,
Yes.
you got involved.
Yes.
The agreements were not met.
Yes.
You tried to adjust or fix it.
Yes.
There was a change of game.
Yes.
You tried to make that work.
Yes.
It worked for a bit,
Yes.
and then there was some kind of sudden change,
Yes.
and then you were out.
Yes.
Okay. So our job is just to find out what gives rise to this pattern of behavior. Let me show you what the pattern looks like. So you have a desire, you consider possibilities, you apply, you choose one, you make agreements, or you get involved. The agreements are not met. It's interesting that happens in your pattern. And then you try to, when I say try to adjust or fix it, that's in relationship to the agreements.
Right.
And then there's a game change, which makes you trying to change the agreements almost irrelevant, because now there's a new thing, that's new game, new set of rules, which you try to make it work. I mean, that's what you do. And it does work for a little bit, but then there's a sudden big change that you couldn't have planned on, and then you're out. And that's an oscillating pattern. What do you tell yourself after a pattern like that goes down?
Like after going through one of those cycles, what do I tell myself?
Yeah.
I should have done a better job making the agreements. Why didn't I leave well, actually, I know in several cases why I didn't leave, but like, why didn't I leave right away? And why did I keep working at it, trying to fix it?
And do you answer those questions about why did you?
Well, one of them, like, for example, I'd moved to Alaska with my boys, and that's a big, huge move. And I'd done it right at the beginning of their high school, and I wanted them to have a stable high
No,
school.
no, my question is, when you say, why didn't I do this, that, or the other? Do you actually answer those questions?
To the best of my ability.
Is it always circumstantial? Like going to Alaska? My kids are in school in Alaska, I can't quit.
No, it's not always circumstantial.
Okay, so what is it that you tell yourself?
I got myself into this. I'll make the best that I can out of it.
Well, I want to tell you what I'm seeing in the pattern and see if it's consistent with something you think. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
You can't trust people.
Mm.
Do you think that?
Wow. I'd say that's the conclusion I come to.
Well,
Yeah.
how many times do you have to come to that conclusion before you sort of write it in as a general idea that you have about everyone?
What's interesting is people reflect to me that I'm a trusting person. I think of myself as a trusting person.
Yeah, but we're not talking about you. We're talking about other people.
Good point. I'm just running through in my mind like they're.
Well, think about the way you try to negotiate the agreements. And as I'm looking at this pattern, my guess is that you try to negotiate the agreement so that any loophole that's there is covered and you don't get screwed.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. And the reason you do that is you can't trust people. And that's where I got it from. I got it from looking at the pattern.
Okay. Wow. Huh. I've never thought of myself that way, but I see that in what you're describing. Yeah.
Well, it isn't necessarily something that's a top of mind, but it's a built-in concept that you have when you're in this pattern. And as it turns out, you cannot trust them because they always change the game and break their agreements and let you down.
Wow. Yeah, that's a tilt. That's a tilt for me.
In what way?
I was not aware at all of that as I was going through the negotiations. Although the last time, and how can I say this? As the pattern is repeated, I've become more pointed in the initial negotiations, like you said, trying to make sure every loophole is covered and getting a lawyer to review the agreement and, I do everything I can to.
So do you think this idea came to you recently, or it's something you may have had for a longer period of time?
I think it's probably long-term, although I've learned, maybe I've learned more strategies to try to address it over time.
Yeah.
telling myself maybe I was just naive and that's why it happened before. And if I could just get
Well,
correct.
I'm wondering too, if you think that if you're pure of heart, so will they be, or at least they should be, because you're a good guy, they should be a good guy.
I think that's true. Like if I give my word about something, I do it. I show up. I do it to the best of my ability.
Mm.
And I assume other people are operating on the same assumptions, the same intentions.
Well, it's interesting because there's two things going on: is you do think that and you don't think that simultaneously.
Right.
It's really interesting for me as a structuralist. It's like, oh, good.
We're on to it. Okay.
There's two different things, and they're
Right. Maybe,
so, I mean, in other words, let me put it sequentially, which might help. You don't trust people, but you think that the universe reciprocate. So if you're a good guy, so should they be, because that's almost like your agreement with the universe. But then the universe doesn't live up to its part.
right. Yeah. And then I can shake my fist at the universe. Yeah. Interesting. Huh. So in that scenario, then am I doing the things like working with good intention and working to fulfill my agreement because that's just who I am, or because I'm trying to like manipulate them into then expecting they're going to do the same?
Well, you have a strategy to compensate for your opinion about the world. In the meantime, you really want to do things. So the desire, your aspirations, and your values are really quite clear to you. But there's this concept that here you are in a world that doesn't have the same values, even though you would like it to. So naive is not quite the right term, because structurally it's not about being naive. It's about trying to make the deal with the universe. Come on, you're supposed to have karma here, like you do one thing, it's supposed to come out the other way, exactly parallel. So what's wrong with you, universe? How come it's that way? It shouldn't be that way, because I'm a really good guy. So, but underneath it all, subtext is you have to do that because the universe is not, or people in the world are not. What can you describe that part of it in your own words?
Do you know, it's interesting because I had I'm just thinking that I was on a retreat this spring, and there was a certain moment when I was walking on the beach and literally like shaking my fist at the universe, saying, like, look at me, I've done all this work, I've worked so hard, and you don't support me. Where are you? And I don't trust you. And
this
I
is
don't
exactly what I saw.
right. And I don't trust you to treat me well. Like, there's all this spiritual hoo-ha about like surrender to the universe. It's like, what? Surrender to you, you'll just stomp me into the ground.
Damn universe.
Exactly. And they were kind to me anyway, but that was just this like, rah, shaking my fist at the, I don't trust that the universe would be kind to me. Yeah. I don't, and how can I say this? on the level of the universe, how can I say this? It's impartial, that it doesn't, there isn't niceness. Things happen as they happen. There isn't niceness involved.
No, but on the other hand, the underlying assumption you make is that the world is a dangerous place and you better be in control, because if you're not, you're going to get creamed. And so in trying to make a deal with the universe, that's just one strategy of trying to be in control. Another strategy is when you negotiate these agreements, trying to have it be airtight.
Mm-hmm.
Reminds me of this Charlie Brown cartoon with Lucy and the football. And he has this signed agreement from her that she won't pull it. She actually has an agreement in this cartoon, agreement that she's not going to pull it away. So he runs up, of course, and then she pulls it away and he falls again, like usual. And she says, funny thing about this agreement, it's never been notarized.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So I think we're on to the underlying structure. We may not be, but I think we are. What do you think?
I think so. And actually, another thing I've come to, probably imperfectly in my own looking, is because I understand the nature is that I'm not probably not going to see it accurately, is that part of that freedom and control, someone has to like me or think highly of me, or they're going to hurt me.
Wow.
That's, I think that's part of it too.
Yeah. I mean, the difference is they'll like me or be indifferent versus they'll like me and kill me.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I won't go into it, but I think there's some things that happened in my childhood that contributed to that. And so I think that's there too. Yeah. It's not just they'll be indifferent, they'll hurt me.
Well, the way that we see these concepts is not the experience that you had when you were a child. That's over. But what's not over is the conclusion you made. And the thing about concepts is they're not true in reality. For example, people might not like you, but they don't necessarily want to hurt you. You got to really go out of your way to want to hurt somebody versus being indifferent to them or neutral or polite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the strategy even about being likable is defensive.
Yeah, and that's something I've asked myself and questioned myself. I think there is part of me that is kind just because that's my nature, but also there's like this extra layer of polish on it, perhaps.
Well, there's different things going on though. You're kind to people because that's part of your values. And that's authentic and it's real, and there's no bullshit in that, really. And in terms of aspirations, I mean, you're a doctor, you want to heal people, you want to support people. That's part of your aspirations and also your values. It's the added subtext of people are dangerous that then it takes on a different context.
Like a twist. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like a bit of a chip on your shoulder kind of thing. Not that you would carry it around like a chip on your shoulder, but it's a subtext. It's not a text, it's a subtext.
Got it. Yeah.
So when you look at the world, let's just say a couple of things that are true. One is you can't control what you can't control, right? Is that true?
Absolutely true.
But your strategy is trying to control what you can't control.
Right.
And it always bites you in the ass.
Yep.
I mean, your pattern. It's like, wow. Because you try your best and then the game changes. Holy, wow. And you're a good guy. You try to make it work. Okay, it changes. All right, I'll try to make it work. And then there's another change and it just becomes not workable.
Mm.
Now, remember that in structure, what structure is looking for is equilibrium. And so when you're over here, my two rubber band thing. So,
Yeah.
here you are, and there's this wall, and there are two rubber bands, two tension resolution systems. So when in this oscillating pattern, when you're over here, being close to or having what you want, that's the point of most non-equilibrium. It's where the path of least resistance is to move away from what you want. That's what happens in your pattern. But it happens in a way that's consistent with the concept that you have, which is the world is a dangerous place and you can't trust people.
Hmm.
So you better control as much as you can in defense of what harm could befall you.
Right. Hmm. Yeah, it takes a lot of vigilance then too, like energy and vigilance to do that.
Yeah.
Wow. And
So I want to make a distinction between real risk and conceptual risk. There are things that are really risky. Don't into business with certain people and don't park your car at certain places.
right.
Then there's conceptual risk, which is you don't know the real risk, so you assume everything is risky. You create a worst case scenario and then try to create a compensating strategy that would keep you safe.
Hmm. And at this point, I don't know that I would trust myself to distinguish between a real risk and an imagined risk. Do you know that I just...
Well, of course you wouldn't, because you're not doing real risk assessment. Yeah, you can't do it sort of like abstractly. You have to actually look at the specific situation and find out what's really going on.
Right. And what's difficult is I think I have, and obviously have not done it accurately, but I do diligence. I do, as much as I can.
No. The due diligence is not looking at risk. The due diligence is trying to get people who are not to be trusted to sign on the dotted line so they won't pull the football away. Funny thing about this contract is not.
Got to remember the notarization clause next time, right?
Yeah. But once you're in that pattern, every step of the pattern has the same structure. It isn't that you're okay and then it gets worse. It's that from step one, it is the same structure. And I'm just going to draw this for you. So we have the dynamic urge, which is in your case, aspirations and values, which is the organizing principle that you automatically have. And that's really where you spend time on that, in that frame. And then there's reality. And then there are the concepts. In this case, concept. And they tie together in what I call a causal loop, which creates, it's a structure that has shifting degrees of lack of equilibrium. There's no point where it actually can resolve. It just, wherever you move, it's going to be unresolved. And if we can take the concepts out of the structure, what you're left with is structural tension that is resolvable. It's an R there. Resolvable. That's a different structure. It's like moving from the rocking chair into the car. And it isn't necessarily that the concept goes away, but it's no longer in the structure. But what you need to do, though, is to become more fluent in reality. You don't know what you don't know. And some things you can't know what you can't know, couldn't possibly know. And there's some things you could know: pattern recognition, probability, track record. Yeah. But in knowing that, it's taking away some orientation, some place you stand, ready for to guard yourself against harm.
What is going on for me is thinking about then how do I go about making those decisions in a healthy way? Like,
you don't know.
Sorry?
You don't know. You can't create a new, see, this is a new control strategy. It's, let's create a policy now. From now on, we're going to do it this way.
Does that mean just coming to something and saying, I'm going to trust that this is?
Why would you trust anything? Like, for example, would you walk across the street without looking both ways if it was a two-way street?
No.
Just trusting that you'll be okay, because the universe is going to make sure you don't get run over. Or would you actually look both ways and then cross the street when you're safe?
Right, I'd look both ways.
Right. Do you need a policy for that?
No.
But you see where your mind went? It went right to, let me create a construct to know how to act in light of that the world's a dangerous place. And how do I manage that?
Right. Hmm. Hmm. So it sounds like that's just like part of the way I navigate is just to understand that I have that concept that the world's a dangerous place.
Mm-hmm. Well, you do.
Yeah.
Don't you? I remember you on the beach having a complaint about the universe to the universe. I can imagine you doing that. It was just so, it's so dramatically, completely, exactly right.
Being in that structure. Yep.
Hmm.
Yep.
So here's what we do. We learn reality. And in reality, you can't control what you can't control, right? Can you say that a few times?
I can't control what I can't control. I can't control what I can't control.
Is that true or not true?
It's very true.
Okay. Which means that if you enter into some kind of collaboration with others, it doesn't call for trust, it just calls for good sense. And you don't know what's going to happen really, but what you want to do is you want to be in touch with reality as you're also in touch with your aspirations, and not presume worst case scenario or best case scenario. Which for you would be very disorienting. It's almost feeling like flying by the seat of your pants.
And I'm also realizing too that if I can recognize that stance of like everything is dangerous, so people are like, wow, you're so brave to go do such and such, and it's like, well, everything is, doing anything is brave in that. And do you know what I mean?
Sure, in that scenario, getting up in the morning is brave. I mean, what the hell's the universe going to do today? It says right here in my contract, if I'm a good guy, you're supposed to be a good guy. That's
Right.
what we negotiated.
Right. And they're not paying attention.
Yeah. By the way, there's a name for that. It's a one-way bargain with the universe. How are you thinking about it? And what does it feel like right now as you're kind of looking at these things, these issues?
It's like there's a whole layer of veneer that's been ripped off of looking at my motivations for decisions and things that I've done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And the other side of control is freedom.
Yeah, it's there's a disorientation, like, oh, so if I'm not sort of driving my life that way, what's driving?
Well, why do you need to know?
Hmm.
Please answer that question. Why do you need to know?
This simplistic way of describing it that comes to me, it's like, if I don't know the fuel in the vehicle, like, how's it going to move? Like, how's it going to go forward?
What's the fuel?
Like, am I doing something out of love, or am I doing it out of fear? And what's the fuel for it? I don't know if I'm saying that well.
No, but again, you're trying to control your motivation. It's insidious. It's like, no, it's not like you're doing it on purpose. Absolutely not. but it's so ingrained in the conceptual nature of be careful, look out, watch it.
Mm.
How do you know your motivation? Because you know it, you know? You know, for example, when you work with patients, you really want to serve them without any extra anything, right?
That's true.
That's a different pattern. Do you have to question your motive when you're trying to heal patients?
No. And I don't question my motive, like when I'm writing the things that I want to write or working
Yeah.
in the garden or, things like that.
Sure. So your question of how will I know? Answer that question given your own experience.
Yeah, I'll know when the desire to do something comes from a place of,
You're making it too complicated. You'll know because you'll know. Because you mean it.
Hmm.
And you have a whole life experience, a whole history of your life experience, your other pattern, which is structural tension, vision, current reality, moving toward creating the vision. And you have it in spades with your practice and with your patients and with other things you do. And when you're in that structure, there's no doubt about what you're up to.
Hmm.
Is there?
No, I don't question.
Then why are you second guessing yourself right now?
This is a really good question because it's been a lifelong thing of questioning if I really know something. That's,
Why do you question that?
I've been willing to listen to voices around me saying, that's not right. That's not correct. And
There's nothing wrong with listening to voices and then deciding for yourself whether they're right or not. The question, you see, this is again the way your control strategy is completely, trying to create a policy about who you listen to, who you don't listen to, whether it's this, whether it's that. And none of that is workable. And none of it describes your motivation when you're in structural tension versus structural conflict.
so just to make sure I get that, so that self-questioning part is also part of the controls.
Yeah, of course, yeah. What's the function of it?
Right, to make sure I make the right decision so I'm safe.
Yeah. So therefore, mistakes in that world, in that structure, are not okay.
No.
Yeah. And why are they not okay?
Oh, because then someone may be upset with me and then they may hurt me. That's the.
Yeah. They either like you or hate you, right? And they want to kill you.
I know it's not logical. It's just so.
It is from a structural point of view, it's logical. It's not logical when you just simply look at reality. But if you write in the concept in the structure, in the frames, it totally makes sense. Because anyone, if you take you out, put somebody else in, and they thought the world's a dangerous place the way you do, then they would be having the same kind of behavior that the underlying structure gives rise to. What we have to do now, in a way, the job now is simply to see reality for what it is, not for what it isn't. Your thinking, I think, I'm willing to look at reality, but I have to have a plan in case it goes wrong.
Need an escape hatch. Right.
Yeah. Versus truth for truth's sake. You know, no matter what the consequences, what's true, what's real, what's true. So in a way, your intellectual honesty has got to become dominant over your conceptual fear. So in reality, what's true?
I'm sorry, did you ask the question, in reality, what's true?
That's what I said. Yes, that's
Okay.
what I asked.
I was starting to write something, so I didn't hear it. In reality, what's true? Oh, it goes back to the I can't control what I can't control. There's certain things I can control. And there's a lot I can't.
Mm-hmm.
I can't control the world. I can't control other people.
Yeah. What's the truth about whether if people don't like you, they want to hurt you? What's the truth in reality about that?
If they don't like me in reality, they may not physically hurt me, but they can do things to, like when I've been in organizations, they can do things to block me or thwart me, or, you know, they can.
But that's not to hurt you. That's to hurt the whatever vested interest they have in relationship to what you're trying to do. That's not trying to hurt you.
I guess I personalized it, that in some cases.
But is it personal? Look, we're trying to look at reality here.
Right. And sometimes I think it was, yes, personal, and other times, no, not.
So therefore, it's case by case. So therefore, you can't generalize. Because if you generalize, you get reality wrong.
True.
So now, if you're not in an organization and somebody doesn't happen to like you and there's no actions you need to take or they need to take, they just happen to not to like you. Are they motivated to hurt you in reality?
No, they just probably wouldn't spend time with me, or.
Well, yeah, okay, so fair enough. What would you want to spend time with somebody you don't like? Hey, I really don't like you. Let's have a dinner party.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, they'd go about their business and they wouldn't pay attention.
Which is fine, right? I mean, are they free to not like you? I'm looking for a yes or a no.
Yes, I'm nodding. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
If you weren't trying to get them to like you for your own defense, you would then be able to be yourself and not try to manipulate them into liking you. And then if they liked you because of the real you. And if they didn't like you because of the real you. And why do you want people to like you if you're not really there? They're just putting on a show.
Right. No, I would not want that. I would want them to connect with me, to like me for who I am.
Yeah. Are you free to be the way you are?
Yeah, it's dangerous territory. And yes.
It's not dangerous. Why is it dangerous territory?
Oh, um,
See, I don't have the signed contract notarized.
um, I'm having thoughts or memories that I believe a skill that I have learned is to be chameleon-like. Um,
Yeah, well, it's
so
good. Another one of your strategies.
exactly, and so that's why I'm saying, like,
So
there
my
are.
question is different than you're answering. The question is, are you free to be yourself? And you went somewhere else. I don't know where.
Right, and
And I
I
want to
went.
bring you back to this question because it's just a very simple question. You free, in your opinion, are you free to be yourself?
Oh, and my answer is yes, I am, and in the past I haven't allowed that. So
Well, yeah, because you have this concept that it's not okay to be yourself.
yeah.
You're going to get creamed. Boy, all you have to do is show up and be yourself, and you're going to get creamed.
Yeah,
Not only will they not like you, but they'll try to kill you.
that's right. Right. So when you ask that question, yes, I am free, and I'm seeing that I haven't allowed that in the past. I haven't allowed that up.
When you say allow, you're even then in the word allow, you're trying to impose a control strategy on it versus see the reality that whether you take the freedom or not, you're free to be yourself. And people will either like it or not like it. But there's no allow here. The allow is you controlling yourself to allow yourself to be who you actually are and be free to be yourself. You see how it's so insidious? I mean, just,
That's so convoluted. Oh my
yeah.
God.
So I want you to say this line and see if you agree with it and see if it's true. I'm free to be myself.
I'm free to be myself. It's true.
Say it a few times.
I'm free to be myself. I'm free to be myself. It brings up a lot of emotion. I'm free to be myself.
What you're doing is you're teaching yourself reality because in your mind, it's trying to defend the concept. So that's why you have to go over that ground because otherwise you will slip back into the, well, you're free to be yourself, but you better watch out.
But only at certain times and only if there's certain people around. And yeah. Wow.
Well, see, what you've done your whole life is try to hold it together. And you don't quite know what will happen if you stop trying to hold everything together. And there's no reason for you to have to know what will happen.
Hmm.
Is that true or not true?
Very true. It's true.
You know, in a way, it's like you're free to be yourself and let the chips fall where they may. And your mind is saying, well, what if they fall over here? You know, that don't... Well, I mean, in the meantime, you know, you have these aspirations and you have values and you do good work in the world. And that's not part of this whole structure. This is a completely different thing about structure. You've started with, I don't know how to make money. And the premise about making money begins itself with a control strategy. How do I make money so I can survive? Isn't that true? I mean, you think
Yes.
even thinking about making money is
Mhm.
is about protecting yourself from harm. It isn't supporting quality of life. If you didn't have that going on and you just had aspirations and current reality, making money would be a secondary choice to supporting quality of life.
Okay. Yeah,
There'd
I
be
can.
no weird stuff in it.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I want you to tell me right now everything that you currently know to be true.
I am who I am. I'm free to be that. I'm free to be myself. Um, there there are people in the world who like me and those who don't. And if they don't like me, they're likely to go away and just not interact. Um, can I say this? I don't know if this will come out right. I believe the truth is the world is neutral and that it's not necessarily for or against me. The world is the world.
Yeah, I think the way you might more accurately say it is you have no idea what the world is like. Right.
Yes. And
How do we know? How do we know? You know, it's like people philosophize and they make up theories and they speculate and they come to conclusions and so on and so on. But I think you have to just take it as you find it. In other words, even the world is neutral itself is a policy
okay. So that I can't.
versus, well, there's no reason to come to that conclusion because we have no idea what it might be like tomorrow or the next day.
My mindfulness fell. Yeah, so I don't know the world and I can't know the world, or I can know moment by moment something, but I can't know the world and how it works and what it's up to.
And there is no reason to have to know it on that level because you can't control what you can't control. This is also, I think you should be teaching yourself this.
That I can't control what I can't control. It's big.
The things that you think you need to know, you don't need to know. That was all part of your control strategy.
Yeah, there's like a whole crystalline like structure that I can see there. That's
Hmm.
hmm. Hmm.
So how are you feeling right now? What's your experience? Besides being disoriented.
Yeah, and it is disorienting and quiet, and I'm still in that. I think that one of the biggest things is how to, this is a strategy to undo the strategy.
Yeah.
The
Just look, try this. Just let everything go. Like, stop it.
It's like how to throw that mind a bone, like that, the whole pattern, like how to let it go. Wow, it is just
Well,
so
because there's nothing it does at all that's steeped in reality. It's all the concept.
Mm. 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 Yeah, so I think that there will be a period of me teaching, learning reality.
Yeah, but how about getting it right now? Why wait? Waiting is a control strategy.
Yes, you're right. I'm having trouble trusting that it'll go with me, that it's sinking in. So
See, the whole issue of trusting it itself is control. You don't have to trust it. What motivates you having to trust it? You watch and see what happens. Like in your medical practice, if you diagnose something and then you treated it, would you trust the therapy, or would you observe the therapy, evaluate it, and make your judgments based on what you're seeing versus any factor of trust? What would you do as a doctor?
yeah, it would be based on their response, not the
So
expected
what's different
outcome.
about that and this?
It's the same.
Does anything call for trust?
I'm sorry, say again.
Does anything call for trust?
Ooh,
I mean, because you've made this a big kind of issue in your life, what to trust, what not to trust, as if somehow trust meant something. I don't know if it does.
that it was a compensation for not trusting.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. What's different, by the way, that's different than trust is that you find some people credible and reliable, and they always do what they say they're going to do, and you can predict that they're probably going to continue to do that. And other people are not that way. You can probably predict that they'll continue to do that. But it doesn't call for trust. It calls more for pattern recognition.
For the observation, to base it on the observation. Yeah.
Just like you do in your medical practice.
Right.
Do you tell your patients, trust me, or do you tell them, follow my directions?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, it's to follow the directions. So
Yeah.
often they don't. Yeah.
Yeah, but whether they do or they don't, your attitude about that is if you do these things, probably it's going to work that way. Versus trust means there's something unseen and you have to somehow rely on this thing that you can't see. And you have to evaluate whether or not it's going to work or not with no evidence.
Right.
Like trust in blind faith.
Right.
So I want you to continue to right now, to continue to focus on what's real, what's true, and what's real. It's not like fighting with your strategy, which is just another control strategy. It's calling it like it is and seeing it for what it is. People sometimes in these kinds of sessions say, well, I want to know how I can make sure I remember this. And I always have the same answer. Look at reality. It's always going to be real. You have to remember. If it's real, it's real. And you just look again and there it is.
Wow. So for me, it's that sinking in of I'm free to be me. The world I can't control. The world is the world. And there is this, I get a sense also of this openness and this freedom that's there for me and for other people and for the world.
Well, I don't know about the world, but certainly for you.
Yeah.
Because what do you do when, look, what do you do when you're not in the controlling modality? You have an answer in your own life. What you do is you heal people, you write, you support people, you know, you do good work for people. And you do that because that's what you want.
Yeah, and it's a revolutionary thing for me to think about the money being just a secondary step instead of the primary.
Survival thing, which this is, for you, the money's not just money, it's a symbol of protection. It's like a shield. It's, you know, I won't end up in the gutter looking through ash cans.
Yeah.
with my shopping cart and sleeping bag.
Mhm. Mm. 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 Mm.
So how clear are you about how things really are?
Mm. I'm clear that I am free to be myself. I am myself, and that there's a lot I can't there's a lot I can't control, and I can't control what I can't control.
Hmm. And hopefully is also an understanding that there's not a lot you have to control.
Hmm.
You know, when you're creating, it's not a control strategy. It's a effective creative process in which you're not controlling anything. You're taking strategic actions on behalf of the outcome that you want. It's totally not a control strategy. Creating is, it's funny because in a way you're more in control because the chances of you accomplishing the outcomes are higher. But you're not doing it because you're trying to control anything. What you're doing it is you're just managing the action steps on behalf of the outcome. And that tension wants to resolve. I mean, it's a real dynamic. It's not symbolic. It's not a metaphor. It's a real dynamic.
It's interesting as you're describing, I can feel inside myself when I shift into that, like when I'm working on a writing project or I'm working on something, I can feel that shift.
Yeah, because you're in a different structure.
Hmm. Hmm.
Is there anything more we have to do, or are we done?
I think we're done. I part of for me, it's that staying in
Reality.
reality.
The word's
Yeah.
a reality.
Yeah, that swear word.
It's a good word. Yeah, reality means it's real versus not real.
Right, another 4-letter word, right?
Yeah, real. Yeah. Can you say two things, where you are now and what the session was like for you going through this with me?
Where I am now is a very quiet place, and as you mentioned, disoriented but quiet. And coming into the session, I was really nervous, and that excited and nervous. And because I know that I knew that there would be a process of discovering something that I've had hidden from myself. So there was both excitement and nervousness about that. And to go through the session, there's a sense of uncovering, and it was done with such grace. Just, I have the sense, Robert, when you do this, there's no judgment involved. It's just the exploration, and I so appreciate that. So it's a really powerful way of uncovering whatever has been hidden.
Well, structure is really nothing personal. And when we take you out, put somebody else in the same structure, and they do exactly the same thing. So I think this is the importance of understanding structural dynamics, because it is the underlying structure, and you know that what we're doing is not pathology. We're not doing therapy. We're doing something different. And there's a place for therapy and pathology, but this is not that. What this is people have built-in assumptions that they have because they've come to certain conclusions that they don't even know they've come to. And that then becomes part of the mix in the structure. The structure is the combination of elements and how they impact each other. And so how can you take it personally when, you know, if anybody thought this particular thing or that particular thing, naturally they would do whatever the action is. It's because the underlying structure gives rise to the patterns of behavior. Change the underlying structure changes the patterns of behavior. And I think that's really quite the amazing insight about structural dynamics. That, I mean, look at the pattern recognition part of it. And we do your macrostructural pattern. And did you do this? Yep. I mean, that's phenomenal to see. I mean, wasn't it for you phenomenal to see the pattern in play in your life in different instances with different details of the actual stories, but the form was exactly the same?
Right, absolutely. And that's what I mean by that uncovering. It's like, wow, look at that.
Yeah, look at that. I wonder what causes it. Oh, I see what causes it. All right. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for being my client. And any last words or questions or comments?
No, just deep gratitude. Thank you, Robert, for doing this and for this work. And so I'm just deeply appreciative.
Thank you. Stay on, because I'm going to stop the recording and then say goodbye to you after I stop.